Spaces dropped on a new edition of Soccer Down Here. It's a Tuesday. It is the Tuesday tune-up for January 19th. You want to be part of it, you can tweet at us, at Soccer Down Here. You can join the Twitch pitch, twitch.tv/Soccer Down Here. You can email us, soccerdownhere@gmail.com. We got a lot of things to get caught up on. There's a bunch of MLS updates that we touched on just a little bit during soccer over there last night. We'll get into your questions on Phil Neville in Miami. We'll get into your questions on DC United's new manager. We'll get into your questions on the rumors from Cesar Luis Merlo about Lisandro Lopez from Racing coming to Atlanta. We'll get into all of those. There's a trade in MLS. There's more rumors about Ibargüen going to Minnesota. We'll get caught up on everything MLS related today. We'll talk about the games that are coming up today. You've got games all over Europe. A big one in England with Leicester hosting Chelsea. And some interesting stats on Frank Lampard's time at Chelsea that we'll get into. Silly season, of course, because it's silly and it's that season. There's lots of things popping off. Romelu Lukaku is the latest new addition to the silly season roster. We'll talk about who could be bidding for him and how likely that is and all of the things associated with it. So, John, where do you want to start this morning?
I guess we should start where there's the possibility, probability, however you want to phrase it, that someone else is going to be a part of Atlanta United come 12:30 local time out of Argentine football.
No. Slow down. Racing is not announcing him coming to Atlanta United. They're not signing a contract for him at Atlanta United. This is a farewell at Racing, and I think that needs to be understood here. This is not just a run-of-the-mill 37-year-old attacking player who is being linked to Atlanta United. This is not just your average player. He's definitely not looked at as your average player at Racing. He is an idol at Racing. He is a symbol of the club. He's probably the most important player they've had in the last decade. He is associated and that symbol of what Racing Club is. And they're in a bad spot right now. We've talked about it over the last few months with Sebastian Becasese now gone. Diego Milito left, the sporting director. Lots of internal issues. If you're going to leave, now's the time if you're a guy like Lopez because it's going to be difficult. And there's a lot of infighting and a lot of issues at the club. It helps him leave that his wife is the daughter of the club's president. That makes it a little bit easier, and this was known for a while now. This isn't a shock to the system. The new manager coming in knew that Lopez was going to leave. Also, it's very safe to assume that he is a player that Gabriel Heinze wanted to bring here and had identified as a possibility and wanted to bring here. And, yeah, I mean, don't get anything twisted either about he's coming in to take Joseph Martinez's job. No, that's not how any of this works. He's coming in because you have the space to do it. And as I called it last night, I called him a luxury player. There's not a lot of teams in the league that could pull off a move like this. This is not just your average backup spot starter up top or on the wing. This is a guy with a pedigree. This is a guy who is still producing. This is a guy who's still playing a lot for Racing. This guy who had 17 goals in the Argentine First Division in 2018-19 to lead Racing to a title. So the announcement coming up earlier, Racing, and at the announcement they might talk about Atlanta United, he's not signing a contract there. Don't get anything twisted. This is a goodbye. And this is something, look, our MLS teams aren't really used to, right? We don't have a whole lot of players who are symbols of the club. We don't normally think about it in this way. We need to start doing that, to be perfectly honest. Atlanta's a young club, but we need to treat these players in this way. Kyle Beckerman, Nick Raimondo at Real Salt Lake, idols, symbols of the club. Luis Robles was at Red Bulls, and then he spent a year in Miami. We need to honor these guys. That's why I think then maybe we understand a move like this a little bit more and what it means, because this was breaking news all over Argentine sports media yesterday. When this started to hit last night, This was front page stuff. This is a big deal. Again, it's not your average 37-year-old player, and he's coming in to a situation where, yeah, I think it's going to take a little bit of time for Gabriel Heinze's style to fully develop and fully flesh out. But you don't make a move like this if you don't think it's going to put you over the top. You don't make a move for a 37-year-old player because he's not going to play 5 years for you. He might play one. It's a one-year deal is what's being reported. You make a move like this to solidify a title chase. You make a move like this to solidify winning trophies. And it's a crowded calendar for Atlanta United in 2021. You've got CONCACAF. You've got Open Cup to some degree. We don't know exactly what that looks like just yet. You've got the league season. You've also got players who will be missing time for their national teams. And one of them is your striker, Joseph Martinez, who's also coming off of an ACL injury. Maybe you want to slow him down just a little bit. It's where this club is going, and I think it says a little bit about the ambition for this year. So, big move. This is not a small move. This is a big move. But understand what it is. It is a move to come in and elevate what you already have, as opposed to he's going to come in and play 40 games this year. I don't see that.
No. Antino's in this morning early on the Twitters, and odd waking up to people upset about adding a 37-year-old depth piece at striker with Joseph coming off of an ACL. Seems like a lack of knowing who he is in quotation marks. BWP has been going on 35 and 36, and people thought those were great moves for LAFC and the crew. It seems like the same signing.
See, that's brilliant from Antino, because people were saying that Atlanta United should have signed Bradley Wright Phillips last year and this year. This is a better signing than Bradley Wright Phillips. No disrespect to BWP. This is a player who has done it at a higher level, at a higher standard than Bradley Wright Phillips. So if you would have been happy with that move, you can't be angry about this one. If that makes sense. That's a very important thing to understand here. What it means for the rest of the roster, and I'm seeing questions about it in the Twitch pitch, no way to know. And it might not mean anything. You have the roster space. You know, this is not where you've got a clear roster space right now. You have international slots. You have senior roster spots. Does it mean that Adam John is potentially going to get traded? It could. It might not. Does it mean that Jackson Conway is going to play for the Twos or get loaned elsewhere? It could. It might not. You have the space to do this. So you're making your team better. Nothing wrong with that at all. And I think Antino nails it. If you're talking about going to get a veteran like a Bradley Wright Phillips, and there were a lot of people who were saying that's the kind of move you should make. Well, this is a better version of that.
And Tafka says that if you don't want to put too much pressure on a Jackson Conway too early, a one-year veteran signing like Lisandro Lopez makes sense. Seems odd at first, but you don't want a player to hold that number 2 spot for more than a year with Conway coming through.
You've got to understand, and I know this is crazy to say these days, but you've got to actually think through everything rather than whatever message you think this team is. Like, they don't sign old players. Well, yeah, they do if it's the right fit. Like, anybody would do that. You don't make a rule saying we don't sign a guy over this age. If you need a player who fits that and he's the right fit for your team, you're hurting yourself by not doing it. And that's never even been said. I don't even know where that came from. Like, you can't sign an old guy. If he helps the team, he helps the team.
Yeah.
I don't care. Doesn't matter. You go and get whatever is there for the team. And I always felt like that if the right player was available, and it's a one-year deal, and that's what makes sense, yes, and Tafka's right. You do have Jackson Conway coming. If you feel like coming in that Adam John is either surplus to what you have, you don't see him in the Gabriel Heinze kind of way of playing, or you see him as a very specific piece to the way the team could function, but not used all the time, not just your general backup number 9, but a guy who is used late when you're chasing the game when you have to get direct. who's used in certain situations. You see him like that, okay. You need somebody who can play and replace Josef Martinez from the start when needed, and it will be needed. So this is a player who could do that in a more comfortable way than you would expect than Jackson Conway. Again, because last season, you're talking about a player who, in the last couple of years, has won an Argentine title, has played in the Copa Libertadores, compared to a player who's played with Atlanta United 2 in the USL Championship. Who is going to be more of a sure thing to be able to produce when called upon from the start in those situations? Lopez. That's why you go get somebody like this, because you have big ambitions. You are thinking long-term, and don't ever get it twisted that Gabriel Heinze is not thinking about the long-term, because that's what he does. That's been ingrained into him from his time with Bielsa, his time studying Pep Guardiola. You're looking at how you bring young players through. Jackson Conway will come good, in my opinion, because I think he has the talent for it. But if you're going to ask him to start 15 games this year, that might be a little too much. If you're going to ask Lopez to start 15 to 20 games this year because of the competitions, and sometimes playing alongside Josef or out wide, okay, a little bit more of a sure thing.
Tafka also says he understands the Lopez move, but not as a Tam Gam signing.
Nobody said anything about Tam Gam. Don't jump to conclusions. You know, look, this is a player who is bringing his family to Atlanta. Nobody said anything about Tamer Gam. Why is it an assumption that he would be getting Tamer Gam level salary? There shouldn't be one. Wait and see what it is.
No, and you mentioned the importance of Lopez to his club. Here's the headline in one of the articles that I was looking at to get a reference point for Lisandro Lopez. Surprise in Argentine football, then it mentions that Lopez is announcing he's leaving Racing to continue his career. Here's your subheading. The emblem of the academy, and this is translated, the emblem of the academy will communicate.
The academy is what they call Racing, right. Academica. It's not the emblem of their academy. Just wanted to make sure.
So the emblem of the academy will communicate it through a press conference this Tuesday. So when you have someone referred to as the emblem of your club, the guy that is the representation, the personification of your club, this is what Lisandro Lopez means to his club. That's the individual that is getting the goodbye today and wants to head to MLS. So that's the kind of individual that you're getting, and how important a piece of news this was as it started to break last night.
Yeah, it's a big deal, and I hope that it's looked at as a big positive here. Byrne points out it'd be very good for CONCACAF Champions League. Definitely that. I mean, he was just participating in Copa Libertadores, and he's been there and he's done that and he's seen all of it. So, you know, if you're in Honduras for a match and it's kind of a crazy atmosphere, it won't be too crazy to Lisandro Lopez. And to have a player like that available to start in those games or come off the bench in those games when you need to go find something late, there you go. This is the kind of player you can go get. And while you're developing the others, and as was also pointed out in the Twitch pitch, I believe Domer had it, this is another kind of player that you want in the club for a Conway to learn from. Yep. This is another kind of player you want in the club if Machop Chol signs a homegrown deal to learn from. Also, a lot of the talk in the Argentine papers last night was that he was looking to relocate his family to the United States. Is he going to go into coaching? You know, Gabriel Heinze went down this path when he started coming into coaching. Is Lopez going to go into coaching? Could he potentially be going into coaching here and work with the academy, work in a situation like that? It'd be a great kind of thing to see. So this might be more than just a 1-year veteran coming in, you know, to help the team. This could be a little bit more than that. We'll see.
Yeah. You know, when you have someone like this with this experience, we've mentioned how he can be there as that influence for the younger players, how you would need him for starts, not being intimidated by surroundings, say for a CONCACAF Champions League or an Open Cup situation. You have someone who's comfortable with Gabriel Heinze and what he's looking for. Otherwise, you're not going to get recruited or looked at for a situation like that. All these different boxes that you're looking for a veteran presence, for a team that wants to chase titles. All these different boxes a guy like Lopez is checking off to help you not just on the field, but off as well for all of the young talent that you're looking to cycle through. So there's a lot of different things that are positives here in bringing in this 37 who will be 38-year-old player. A lot of different things to check off here.
You said something and you equated two things that I want to make sure are not.
Right.
CONCACAF Champions League and the Open Cup are not the same thing.
No.
Stop. You can't look at them the same way in terms of players. You're not bringing in Lisandro Lopez to play in the Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup against a third division team on a Wednesday night. That's not why you're bringing him. That's where Jackson Conway plays. That's where he gets his opportunities. That's what we see in clubs around the world. You use those early rounds of your cup to bring the young players through. I'm talking, when we're talking about CONCACAF, you're talking about that game at the Estadio Azteca where you have a bad start, you need an away goal to have a chance to win the second leg. You can turn to Alessandro Lopez off the bench and something like that if you need to. That's why you bring him in. You're not looking for Conway to deliver for you in a key moment in CONCACAF straight away. You're looking for him to do what we saw Brandon Vasquez do in the Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup. You're looking at Lopez to be either a spot starter or a key player off the bench in CONCACAF matches. They're very different in your approach, and it has to be separated. Now, you get to a final, we're having a different conversation. But the way the tournaments will be approached, got to separate that, and that's why you're starting to build a squad with more separation like that. You have your Tyler Wolfs, you have your Jackson Conways. Okay, you can start to work them in some Open Cup, in some league games where you feel like you can use them. Your big games, your CONCACAF matches on the road, your difficult situations, this is where you have Alessandro Lopez available. So you want guys who can do different things like that.
No, I wasn't equating them as just having these different opportunities for the depth and the influence. That's where I was going with it. I wasn't equating Open Cup.
But it's not. No, it's not the same depth. No, you're not looking for Alessandro Lopez to play against the Charlotte Independents on a Wednesday night. You're looking for him to play against Club America at the Estadio Azteca. Right. You're looking for Jackson Conway to play against Charlotte Independents on a Wednesday night. Very different situation. And that's why you go get Alessandro Lopez. That's the whole point here, is that you need him for those moments. You need a goal late for whatever reason it isn't working. You have somebody who can come in and play on the wing, somebody who can play up top, who can change the game for you late. This is something you've needed. This is something that every top club needs. He's been around and he's seen everything. You need a player like that. You don't need him for those early rounds in the Open Cup. You need him for the big moments. Your young players need to get the time in those early rounds in the Cup, some of those early league games. That's where you can get your young guys minutes. Very different setup, and that's where you're talking about a depth chart. Got to separate that a little bit.
Okay. Nathan Pugh is in this morning with his overarching thoughts. Joseph Man-Bunting, and this sounds like a rock promo the more that I look at it. Joseph Man-Bunting, Messi 2-game shopping, Jared Porter texting, Arsenal soaring, Mama Mahomes whining, I guess. Liverpool not scoring, Steve Bruce crapping, Saints now Falcons, what a time to be alive. That's his overarching thoughts for a Tuesday tune-up.
Okay.
That's a lot of thoughts.
I got lost about halfway through.
There's a lot of thoughts. A lot of stuff to tune up about in Nathan's mind this morning.
Okay. Are you going to comment on any of it? Because I got lost about halfway through with that.
Well, I could. The Steve Bruce crapping I could get into.
Go for it.
All right. So here's what, I was, other than getting another migraine watching Newcastle play yesterday and losing to Arsenal 3-0, I was going through reviews of the game itself and reviews of Newcastle. And we've always thought that Newcastle could be a whole lot better and should be a whole lot better than they are. And we've discussed Mike Ashley and Steve Bruce and all this kind of stuff. So, of course,
whole lot maybe is an exaggeration, but better than they are, absolutely. Better quality product than they are, yes. There's no question.
So, as is usually the case after Monday Night Football, Neville and Carricker they do their pointer count, and they go at each other, and they have their own thoughts about the whole thing. And their thoughts about it probably are as close to 180 degrees from what we think when it comes to the Newcastle situation.
Okay.
And here's just a sample of what they said that was driving me crazy, and let me see if it drives you just as crazy as it drove me.
Okay.
All right. So here is, and this is, they got into a couple of different aspects. They got into XG and all this kind of stuff, and I'm going to leave that to the side because it made my head hurt. Jamie Carragher went through a bunch of numbers. He went through XG, got through his XG discussion, and he said this, quote, this is courtesy of our friends at Sky. They have a better center forward now than Rafa ever had. I think Callum Wilson is a huge upgrade on Solomon Rondon and Dwight Gale. These are worrying stats. The XG are worrying stats for Newcastle fans, and hence why there's a lot of frustration there. Here's the paragraph that got to me, or the quote.
Okay.
The biggest issue is the ownership. When I look at Burnley and West Brom, they play to get 38 points each season, and I do not think their supporters are massively unhappy because they're delighted to be in the Premier League. Okay. Sean Dyche has done an amazing job at Burnley. Sam Allardyce would do amazingly well to keep West Brom up. I love the fact there are different styles in the Premier League, but Newcastle cannot be happy to just stay in the division. They must be a presence. And he continues, so I'm going to stop right there.
What's wrong with any of that?
Huh?
What's wrong with that?
The biggest issue is the ownership. That line
Newcastle?
right there.
I mean,
Newcastle.
To a degree, yeah, because the ownership hired Steve Bruce. Like,
I'm looking at the ownership from the lack of investment, the perceived lack of investment when they brought in Joe Ellington, they brought in Callum Wilson, they brought in Miguel Almiron, they brought in Alan.
So Mike Ashley's great?
No.
So that's what I don't understand. Why are you caping for Mike Ashley?
I'm not. Oh,
you said you had a problem with. They said the biggest problem was the ownership.
Yeah, just if the biggest problem is the ownership, and Mike Ashley is investing in all of these players, and you're getting the results that you're getting, that to me means that the biggest issue should be Steve Bruce and his implementation of play, not the biggest issue of the ownership investing in all these players to bring them into what you're doing.
Quibbling. I mean, they're both a problem. You can rank them 1A and 1B. I don't think it really matters. Like, if you could put Pep Guardiola there and he's going to be limited because of the ownership, would he do better than Steve Bruce is doing? Yes. But there'd be a limit. You're not going to do that much better. Like, yeah, they should be better than they are, but I think these guys are talking about big picture. What's where they should be? 12th?
Yeah, mid-table.
But Newcastle shouldn't be. This is the point. Newcastle shouldn't be happy to even be mid-table. But that's the whole point. That's what they said. They're talking about Burnley and West Brom are happy to be there. They're happy to play for draws. If they got 38 draws, they'd be fine. They're happy to be there. The fans have no other great expectation. Newcastle, as a club, should have more expectation than even mid-table, which right now it doesn't even look like the way they're at. So Steve Bruce is managing them like they're Burnley when really they should be Aston Villa.
Southampton, yeah.
No, they shouldn't even be Southampton. That's the problem, John. That's the whole point. Newcastle should not be thinking like Southampton. Newcastle should not be thinking like anybody really outside of a team that is going to challenge for European spots. They're too big of a club. They're too big of a club to be playing like a little small park team. And that's on Steve Bruce, but it's also the ownership because their max right now with where they are and what they have and the level of investment is 10th. That's the ceiling for them. They should not be in that spot. They are too big of a club to be in that spot. They are the sleeping giant in England. So it's the ownership. In my opinion.
And here's my second point with their pointer count.
Okay. Who was arguing that it was the ownership?
Carragher.
Okay.
So then
I'll agree with Jamie.
Gary Neville comes in. Quote, the unhappiness toward this manager is embedded from the history rather than who he is or the job that he's doing. If I was a Newcastle fan, I'd be unhappy now. True. I'd be unhappy under Rafa Benitez. I'd be unhappy under Steve McLaren and the previous 3 managers before that. It's been appalling for the past 10 or 12 years. I think looking for differences between Benitez and Steve Bruce, I don't see any difference because the key thing for me in football is points. Benitez is regarded as one of the best managers in the world over the last 10 or 15 years. He was on £6 million when he was at Newcastle and got 44 and 45 points in his 2 seasons. Last season, Bruce got 44 points. He's matched him for points, and at this stage of the season, over the last 4 seasons, Bruce has got more in each of his 2 seasons compared to those managed under Rafa. For all those nice stats that Jamie has shown us, Bruce has a better record. What Rafa has is a fantastic PR company, and he had a great rapport with the fans because he stuck with the club and got them out of the championship. He demonstrated loyalty. I thought the football was awful under Rafa, and this is something that's culturally said at Newcastle United. It's not a Steve Bruce problem. I've not spoken to Steve in 12 years, even though I played with him. This is not a Bruce defense piece. It's got nothing.
It's a little stretched. Neville's right. The belief that Rafa had them playing wonderful football is incorrect. He's right. He nailed it with the reason why people have a warm feeling towards Rafa is that he stuck around and he went down to the championship with the club and got them promoted. That's why people feel good about him. Yeah, the football was, it was better than what it is now, but it wasn't that much better. Neville is taking the counterpoint, which is what you do in this situation. He's also... If he hasn't talked to Steve Bruce in 12 years, okay, fine. He did play with him. He is defending him to a point. My issue with Steve Bruce is what he has said about the mentality and where they should be, and I think that's way too small time for a club like Newcastle, even with Mike Ashley. He manages them in far too defensive of a stance. They shouldn't be playing in that way against most teams. Some teams, I'll give it some because of the talent. And yes, he's had some bad things go against him this season, and that's probably affected some of his strategy. All right, I'll give him a little bit of an out there. But in general, under Rafa, they were a little bit better to watch. They weren't that much better. Rafa's a good manager. I don't think many people are rating him as one of the best managers in the world over the last 10, 15 years. That feels like maybe a little bit of a jump. His more recent performances have been so-so. He's a good manager. He's better than Steve Bruce. He's not one of the best that's managed in England in the last decade. He just isn't. But Newcastle, this is the problem. And I think Neville's hitting at it in some ways. There is a conditioning now to Newcastle support that they are what they are. And I think Steve Bruce was trying to go along with that, which is wrong, in my opinion. You need to come in and fight that conditioning, not bow down to it. Well, we're just trying to stay up, and if we stay up, that's successful, and blah, 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 blah. No. You're Newcastle. You have history. You should have a huge fan base. I think you have a huge fan base when you are actually producing something that gets them excited. It looks like a team that doesn't want to play for him anymore. It looks like a team that doesn't enjoy what they're doing. And that's a problem. That's on Steve Bruce. He's not fighting against the conditioning of the last decade. He should be. That's my issue with him.
I would also maintain that in the time when Mike Ashley did not spend any money, that Rafa did more with less than Steve Bruce is doing now with the high-price signings, though.
Yeah, high price. Let's slow the
relative
roll there a little.
Relative sense.
It's a little higher. Steve Bruce should be doing more with what he has. Totally agree. Rafa got more out of what he had. Totally agree. But let's not make Rafa the best manager in the league by any stretch. What both of them are saying have a lot of truth in it. I mean, of course, they're coming at it from different perspectives, but Newcastle should not be in the predicament that they are. They are there because of bad ownership and a bad manager, in my opinion. And both are the problem here. One going and the other staying doesn't fix it. You need an overhaul.
Speaking of Neville's, really quickly, Hegarisa is set to become the England women's interim manager after Phil has gone to join Inter Miami. So her appointment should be announced in the next 24 to 48 hours.
Yeah, I don't know if that's a full interim because I don't know if she's taken them through the Olympics. I don't know if that had been decided yet. She's taking the next camp. Former Norwegian international, if I'm not mistaken, and also worked with the U.S. as an assistant. You don't have to go to the Googles. It's okay.
I am for me.
Well, I'd rather have you focus on the show, John, but okay, go ahead. Then I won't ask you for tweets. Some comments about Newcastle from the Twitch pitch because I believe, and I should have apologized, Alex. I'm sorry I did not apologize up front. We were talking about Newcastle. Just kidding, my friend. Let's see. Alex, the owner literally can't just walk away. Bruce is not the root cause, but of the two, Bruce is the only thing you can change right now. A sale needs to happen to end this perpetual limbo. Totally agree. Byrne thinks they're going down. Dr. D thinks they need to go down for Ashley to sell. I almost wonder that they don't sell if they go down because then he gets even less money.
Yeah,
I think they're more likely to sell if they stay up. Modaflow says you can't just invest money in a player like Joel Linton and play him as a winger and expect everything to work. Totally agree there. Modaflow says Newcastle needs Jonas. Yes, they do, always. Katie Weaver asks, is Newcastle the Chicago Fire of the Prem? Legacy club that should be top 8, now lots of tinkering, hints of a good season, then terrible again. I think Newcastle fans would rather be Chicago Fire fans right now because you should actually have some optimism about Chicago. They have a new owner who is, I think, committed to getting it right. You know, he gave an interview here recently where he talked about a lot of the different things. And, yeah, he said he got the rebrand thing wrong and they're going to fix it. Okay, good. He admitted the mistake. He's investing. He's got, I think, a good coaching staff there. They want to be better now, but they also know that it's a process. They're showing some positive signs. And just the actual experience of watching them play, I'd rather watch the Chicago Fire than Newcastle any day of the week. Mm-hmm. They're more interesting to watch as a neutral. So I would think it's even better to be Chicago Fire than Newcastle. Byrne thinks Newcastle got lucky last year. The XG differential was the worst in the league. The thing about the XG, and I don't know what they were talking about here, and Byrne's right, it should approximate it over time. XG in a game can throw you off. XG even in a couple of games can throw you off. XG over a year, you don't see a huge differential. And when you do, then you've got to investigate it. Is it bad finishing? Is it a little bit of luck, too? Which, it's part of the game. You score that goal that is a .05 XG, but you hit a full volley and it deflects off the backside of a defender and goes in, you're a little lucky. And that's okay. But the XG over a season, or especially over like a few seasons for a group, should be pretty much how many goals you score. That's the whole idea. And generally it is. And when there's not, then you can start to examine it. So they were better with their results than they should have been last year, is basically how it fell. They were a little fortunate to stay up. Okay, this year They're playing themselves into a relegation scrap. And that's the most frustrating thing is they should not be there. Based off the talent, they should not be where they are. The manager is holding them back, in my opinion, from what they could be. They still won't be competing for a European spot. That's where they should be as a club. They're not. They need new ownership to do that. They should at least be outside the relegation scrap with the talent they have. He is putting them there from poor management.
Newcastle year to year under Steve Bruce per 90, and this is once again analysis from Sky. Steve Bruce year to year goals are the same, averaging 1 goal per game or 1 goal per 90 minutes. Shots on target year to year is down 15%, 3.5 to 3. Open play chances created is down 20%, 6.5 to 5.2. Touches in the opposition's box is down about 15%, 15.4 to 13.4. Passes in the final third is the same at 85 per 90, and possession is the same at 38%.
It's not where it should be. Alex Pacine said about Mike Ashley, he's trying to sell. He's hitched his wagon to the most problematic buyers. Absolutely true. The only way he sells if they go down is if that group from Saudi Arabia comes back in and still pays 300 million pounds. Now, one thing about the whole Saudi and BN and OutQ and all that stuff, reportedly, and I've seen some back and forth, I think BN questioned it, reportedly their signal has stopped being blocked into Saudi Arabia. Now, I think contractually there's still some issues at the BN level, but they were blocking the satellite coming in to Saudi Arabia. Now they're not, according to some reports yesterday. I'm wondering if that is a precursor to potentially trying again, because Mike Ashley hasn't given up on that deal from everything we've heard. And there hasn't been much said about it here lately, but he has filed a complaint with the Premier League about how all of it went down about the buying. It is incredibly problematic, as Alex says. It's not the right way to go. Yes, if it makes Saudi Arabia change the way they've been doing business with Qatar and BN and all of that, okay, it's still problematic, but you eliminated the only thing that they could stop it on, because they're not going to stop the sale because it's problematic. There's already problematic owners in the Premier League. They were going to stop it because of the fact that the people who were going to buy it were involved with hurting the Premier League's business. That's why they were going to stop the sale. If that part gets eliminated, I don't think the Premier League will stop it. So keep an eye on that stuff. Bert is right. 38% possession for a season is pretty epic. Oh. That's awful. Because it's not... You see some teams, look, you can see some teams win games with 38%, with 28%, with 18%. You can see it from time to time. You can see some teams who have 40% of the possession, but they have a way to attack out of that. They know what they're doing. They are soaking up pressure, and then they're hitting on the break. They are playing like the Red Bulls play, where they're not even trying to possess the ball. When they win it back, they play long so they can immediately press. There's none of that with Newcastle. It's just, we're just going to sit back. We're just going to sit back, and we're going to continue to sit back. It's very, very frustrating. It's definitely worse than peak cynical Seattle, Domer. Definitely that. Seattle's peak cynicism was a pretty short period of time, actually. I think it was that year in 2018 before they got Raul Ruidiaz into the mix, and they could not score goals, and they just said, well, we're not going to give any up then. And we're going to sit back, and we're going to extend the game as long as we can defensively, and that's it. It was a pretty short period of time. It was like the June, maybe May, June, July of 2018 is when it was really bad. They've gotten better. They're not as bad as that anymore. I'll give them that. Jason Nix points out that Leicester won the league in 2016 with about 40 to 42%, but yes, a very different team because they knew what their plan was. That's the thing about Steve Bruce is I don't think there's any plan to get forward. It doesn't feel like it. So it's all about just getting numbers behind the ball. Leicester, they had a plan to attack with less possession. And they scored goals.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah. Court, welcome. I think you're new. Court says, can't play with possession when your quality of players is inferior to the opponent. In general, yeah. Also says, but you can't be effective with possession. But you can be effective, I think, without possession. See Burnley. The thing about it, I would say, is I think they have better players than they try to play against a lot of opponents. I don't think Newcastle should be bowing down to teams in the bottom half of the table and conceding possession in the way that they do. That's my issue with Steve Bruce. You do have to understand your situation. And Leicester, I think, in 2016 is a prime example. Leicester didn't have the same level of talent as the teams around them that they were beating. So they didn't try to play their game. They adjusted, and they had a plan. I don't think Steve Bruce has a plan to get forward. That's my frustration with it. I mean, his whole thing a couple of games ago about two false tens. I mean, what is that nonsense? Like, it feels like the only thing he thinks about is how to defend. That's it. That's not going to win you games. And I absolutely subscribe to the theory that if you're going to put yourself in a relegation scrap, you've got to try to win some games.
Yeah.
You can't go for draws every game because 38 points, if you draw every game, is generally not enough to guarantee safety. And if you have, you play for draws and you have a deflected goal go against you, you have some bad luck, you have whatever, and you lose some of those games, you're out. You're dead. If you win some games and lose some games, you can survive more. One win is better. 1 win and 2 losses is better than 2 draws and 1 loss. That's my issue with it. So the approach of playing for draws. Look at Fulham.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Fulham's getting draws. Good for them. They're still in a relegation spot, and they're not really closing the gap any. So that's got to change. W. Secor, welcome back, I believe. Doesn't another Prem have some Saudi ownership? Do they? Another Prem team? I don't think so. Thought that was part of the hold-up. Since the Newcastle group were Royals, they'd make the other group do things to help them play a week. I don't remember that one, if that was one of the issues, W. I don't remember that. John will research it and be back with us in probably 10 minutes.
Right.
Court says, Steve Bruce is a terrible manager, but comes in the English manager's back, a.k.a. Mark Hughes, Alan Pardew, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. It's just not good enough. It's not good enough for a small team, in my opinion. It's not good enough for Newcastle, who should be a bigger team. That's what drives me nuts. Alex gives the answer on this issue. Sheffield United is owned by a Saudi, but believe he is just an individual. The Newcastle thing is from the Saudi Sovereign Investment Fund. I don't remember that being part of the conversation. It didn't make its way over here too much if that was the issue that the Premier League was having. The main thing kept coming back to the pirating of the games from the Premier League and blocking BN and dealing with a partner and all that kind of stuff. Maybe this was an underlying factor. I don't think it was a major factor, but good shout, W. Good shout. Domer says the Prem had a thing about a team being owned by government. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe, yeah. Okay. That's fine. I still think the pirating was the biggest issue. And that might just be me. It'd be the biggest issue for me.
Yeah.
Being owned by a government, yeah, it's problematic. But again, they've got problematic owners. That's a hard line to draw. Drawing the line that this partner coming in has been involved in screwing over one of your partners who has your TV rights. That's a pretty easy one to say, yeah, no.
Yeah.
The rest of it gets a little cloudier, but we'll see what they figure out because we haven't really heard about anybody else with Mike Ashley buying this team right now. We haven't heard anything else about it. So stay tuned to As Newcastle Turns. Just don't watch the games because it'll give you a headache.
Yeah, you mentioned games with low possession. Since the start of last season, matches played where teams have less than 50% possession. Newcastle is your league leader in the Prem with 48 matches since the beginning of last season under 50%. Under 30% possession, they are far and away the league leader. They've had 13 games since the beginning of last season where they had under 30% possession. Sheffield United has 9. Crystal Palace has 8.
Okay. Alex, our Newcastle correspondent, corrects us. Officially from the Prem and the reasoning, which was a crazy, drawn-out process. Officially, the pirating wasn't identified. It was who would be the real owner. So that's where the official messaging out of the Premier League was. I think that was after the group had already pulled the funding because it had drawn out so long, but that's why it drew out so long, I guess is what they were saying. Okay. I still think the other one's the bigger issue that they can't really resolve, but sure. We'll see where this goes. I don't think it happens with this group, period. And I don't know why it's even still being pursued by Mike Ashley unless there's nobody else. I don't know. Because I don't even know if this group is still interested, to be honest. I mean, they pulled out. Who knows? Anyway, no, we're not talking about Newcastle for 3 hours. We're done
It's
with
not Newcastle down here. No.
Thank you, Alex, for doing that, because I did not know that was where it had come down to. We're changing the subject. We're not talking about Newcastle anymore. We're going to talk about.
Well, let me get in this one line.
Ay, Dios mío.
Tafka says Newcastle doesn't have wingers; they have dual false wingbacks.
Yes, and false tens and inside forwards and all of the other crazy explanations that Steve Bruce has that gives all of us headaches. All right, let's move on. MLS.
Okay.
Managers. You have no teams without managers now. Phil Neville in Miami has gotten a lot of attention. We'll talk about that. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. Chris Henderson's the new sporting director. I think that's the bigger news. DC, we didn't talk a lot about this yesterday. It is official. We talked about it when the rumors hit. Hernan Losada is the new manager. Started his career as a player at Independiente, moved over to Belgium, played for now First Division Belgian club, Beerschot. They have changed their name and bounced around a little bit. They were in the Second Division when he stopped playing and became an assistant coach. He was pushed into the head coaching job in October of 2019, started as an assistant in 2018, got them promoted from the Second Division to the First, and now they're doing okay. They're in 10th place through 21 matches after getting promoted. They've scored the third most goals in the league. They're 1 point away from a Europa League qualification spot. He's done well. I mean, it's a very limited amount of information here. It's October of 2019. There has been some reporting that he is a Bielsa kind of guy in the style of play that he's looking for. Okay, that's another one coming into the league. You know, they're not carbon copies. Gabriel Heinze, Losada, not carbon copies, coming from very different places. They're coming from very different experiences with Bielsa. Heinze played for him. Heinze understands that directly. He experienced it. Losada didn't. They're both going to interpret it in different ways. I want to see, is Losada more on the pressing element of it or more on the positional play element of it? Heinze, I think, has been talked about more with the 100 miles an hour Bielsa style, but maybe it's a little bit more towards the positional play Pep Guardiola side of things, just more up-tempo. So they're going to be different, but coming from the same book. The amount of experience, different too. I mean, Heinze's experience is limited. Losada's is a whole lot more limited. He's younger. He's only going to be their 8th coach in DC's history. Olsen was there for a long time. They had guys stick around a little bit longer in the time before Ben Olsen took over. So it's a great unknown. It's a great unknown as to how he will do in DC. I don't think it's all... This is a tricky one because roster-wise, they've got some issues. They've got some questions. He's going to need time. Now, the good thing is you're going into a club that just had somebody there for 10 years. So he should get that time. He could be somebody who does a good job with the young talent that DC has. That's going to be a key element to this. And if you weren't developing the talent, and you could argue Ben Olsen didn't really have a lot of young talent to work with for most of his run, you've got it coming now. Losada's going to have to develop that because I don't know how many more Wayne Rooney kind of signings DC would go down and go after. This is, I mean, I don't know how much of a risk it is based off the people DC was looking at before. It's better than Chris Armas because he doesn't have the baggage of coming from your rival. It's better than a career assistant because he has won a title in the Second Division in Belgium. But it's still not a lot of experience, still young, probably still fairly manageable from a price perspective. And you're going to give him time, I would think. So we'll see what it does. It's better than the other moves that were out there for them. Out of the 3 that got to this kind of situation for DC, Armas, Gonzalo Pineda, and Losada's the best of those 3.
GM Dave Casper, when he was asked about it by Stephen Goff at the Washington Post, once we did his first interview, it was clear that Hernan's game philosophy aligned with ours. His ideas are very modern, expressed his attacking and defending principles and game model in a very clear way.
Now, my response to that would be that's DC's game model. They've never shown any of that under Ben Olsen. And maybe that's where they want to go going forward, and that's fine. They've never really had much of a game model. So now we will see what they will do with somebody who will. Feels a little bit like a stock kind of answer to say from Casper, and that if that's it, that's fine. He will come in from what limited bit that I've been able to find on him. He will come in with a game model. He will come in with that Bielsa idea. How fleshed out it is, we'll have to see. We'll have to give it a little bit of time. But no, DC's typical game model is definitely not that because they haven't really had one. It's been pretty basic. I mean, I don't think Ben Olsen's a bad coach. He's taken a lot of stick. I don't think he's bad. I think he probably got that job too soon for what he was ready for, and then he didn't get the resources to really develop it. I'd like to see what he does with his next job. I'm curious with him, and just like Armas, but Olsen's got more experience as a head coach. I think Olsen was a good motivator for his team. I think he could set up a team to defend and counter. Can he be a more proactive manager? That's the question about Ben Olsen. And now that he's had this experience, and now that he's not at a club that he was a legendary player at, that time is done. I want to see where he goes and what he does. He might surprise us. He might go take a different kind of job. He might go be an assistant for somebody. He might go and explore some different ideas of playing. I know he did some different things where he would go and study different teams in the off season and stuff like that, and talk with managers. So he might be a bit of a surprise. Losada will be different for them than what we saw under Ben Olsen, though, and let's see how it fleshes out. The other one, Phil Neville, a lot of people very, very negative about it for a lot of different reasons. They might be right. Phil Neville's never managed at the club level. You're talking about somebody who has the experience with the England women's national team, who did well with them. I mean, he got them further than they've gotten, I think, in terms of quality. Were they blessed with a golden generation coming through? We'll see with how their results go. They did fall off after the World Cup in a big way, and that's problematic. I want to see what his game model is. I want to see how he wants to set his team up to play. I want to see how he handles big personalities. I mean, I think Phil Neville's a big personality. But how does he handle Gonzalo Higuain, a Matuidi, a Leandro Gonzalez-Perez? How does he handle those guys in the locker room? How does he get them to buy in? The thing that changes this a little bit is this is not just a name who had a great career, who's coming in. This is a guy who is coming in directly because of your famous owner, David Beckham. That's going to change it. I think the understanding of the buy-in that Neville has from the club, the players will get that. This isn't Frank de Boer coming to Atlanta. I think some people have tried to equate it like, oh, it's a European guy coming into a Latin locker room. It's not a completely Latin locker room either. It's not as much of a Latin locker room as it was here. Frank de Boer didn't have a connection to Arthur Blank. Phil Neville is friends with David Beckham. So that's a little different. Also, I think this signals that David Beckham's going to be more involved than he was last year. And look, maybe he would have been if he didn't have a global pandemic. I don't know. There's no way to know that. They're going to have a consistent plan and message from the ownership. And if Beckham's going to be the front person for that going forward, fine. They didn't have it last year. I think it contributed to the issues that we saw that they had with player recruitment, they had with everything. And maybe it made Paul McDonough's job just impossible to succeed in. But Neville coming in with Chris Henderson, that's what makes Miami, I think, a little bit better. Henderson, knowing the league and what he's done in Seattle, being there since 2008, being able to recruit the talent, as long as Neville, and Henderson was up for the job before, and he ultimately either didn't get it or didn't take it. if Neville and Beckham put their trust in Chris Henderson, and they should, based off what he has shown, this will work out. As long as Neville's a good manager, and that's what we're going to have to wait and see. He's going to have to develop that game model. He's going to have to get the most out of talented players because, look, Miami's not going to build like DC. Miami is going to go get your Gonzalo Higuains. They are going to go chase every big name they can possibly chase. That's a different mentality than DC with a guy like Losada who can go in there and work and build and be out on the training ground and develop these kids. Miami will want to do that, but they're also going to have somebody who can handle a big name and a big personality in that locker room. So I have more positivity around it than I think anybody else, and that's fine. I still have questions just because he doesn't have a ton of experience, and it's a big job. It's a job that they have expectations. They have ambitions. He's going to have to meet those.
But I think his leash is going to be a longer than the average Bear because he's friends with the owner.
Yeah, I would expect it would be.
And I think that, like you, when you mentioned Chris Henderson, I think that bringing him in as chief soccer officer and sporting director with his knowledge base about, MLS and everything that he's been able to build and his experience there will help everything out. I think that was key in bringing him in as CSO. I think that's a fantastic move for me just because of what he knows, what he's built, and now he's being able to do that now with Miami, with what they're looking to do, both with international players coming in and what Henderson knows about Major League Soccer with what he's built over the last decade.
People had 2 questions for you.
Yeah.
How long is the average Bear leash?
That's a Yogi Bear question. And that's not an answer that I have.
When did Yogi Bear put his fellow bears on leashes?
Good. Well, I don't know. Maybe Boo Boo was on a leash and we didn't know about it. We never saw it on camera.
Who uses leashes with bears?
Circuses.
That would be accurate. So you'd ask them, not Yogi Bear.
Yes. Go to Ringling Brothers and see what their answer is.
Yeah, Yogi was never leashed. That's weird.
Yeah.
Man, okay. Just checking. It came up on the Twitch pitch. Okay.
As it should.
People are waiting. People want to know about our good friend over in Decatur, GA. People need to know about Steve Apolinski.
Apolinski and Associates, LLC, proud supporters of everything soccer down here in the SDH network. For wrongful death and serious injury matters, there is only one place that you need to go, and it is Apolinski and Associates, LLC. A couple different ways that you can get your questions answered. You can give them a call, 404-377-9191. Get a free consultation that way. Or you can go on the World Wide Web, use your email, type in steve@aa-legal.com. Ask your question that way. Maybe put your question idea in the topic bar. Then have your question answered below in the context and in the substance of your email. steve@aa-legal.com. That's number 2. Number 3, large device or small, however you access the World Wide Web these days. When you go into the taskbar and you hit aa-legal.com, you hit enter, you hit return, you hit the arrow key, depending on the size of your device. Once the screen advances, a pop-up window pops up because that's what pop-up windows do. They pop up 24/7, 365 and a quarter. Thank you, Chris Hutchison. And it was nice to see you sporting SDH gear the other day when you were out and about in Jacksonville, Alabama, by the way. What? You can get your questions answered. Whatever the question is, you can have it answered by whoever's at the other end of that pop-up window at aa-legal.com. So it is email, it is phone, it is web. Over wrongful death and serious injury matters, over 30 years of experience, $40 million in judgments for their clients in Georgia and Alabama. Recognized as legal elite for being one of the top 100 firms in this here state of Georgia. And I can say it that way now because I'm back in office HD. For wrongful death and serious injury matters, it is Apolinski and Associates, LLC, and the website is aa-legal.com.
Wow. That was.
I'm guessing wide ranging.
You would be guessing incorrectly. That was the longest.
It was?
Yes.
It doesn't feel that way.
Oh, it felt that way. Oh, yeah, it felt that way.
All right.
Let me go back.
Mm-hmm.
'Cause, oof.
Bring it. Let's go.
-1 for no pink backdrop. -1 for the stumble on the phone to website transition.
Okay.
-1, it's not a taskbar, it's an address bar.
Okay, so it's an address bar. I'll write that down.
Hand motions are all over the place today.
It's because I'm back.
-2 for assuming that size doesn't matter.
Hey.
Just saying. It was Jason Nix in Alabama, not Chris Hutchison.
Okay.
That got you like -1,000.
As it should.
Sam Williamson gave you a 5, too many hand motions. Joanne pace was slower and then just went to sprint. That's tough. Modiflow gave you a 32 out of 47.
So that's like a C plus.
Too distracted by the bear leash. 6.3, a 6, 100 out of 1,000.
So that's a 1 basically.
Yep. 5, 7.2, a solid 4. Bird likes the hand motions. Burn likes the hand motions. Clearly more Mountain Dew. Ricky said that was busy. Sean, -1, lost track of the script. -3 for the hand motions. Don't matter. -1 for the size comment. -3 for super long going with a 1.8 today. 6.2, too much going on. 4, Jason Nix apologized for giving you a 4. Maybe the long weekend wasn't good for you. And Perfect Tommy's just laughing at the whole
especially when you're in a car for all of it. Yeah.
Yeah. That stuff.
Yeah.
Yep.
Not recommended.
Kessie, yes, John actually. Well, he didn't see this person in Alabama. He saw them on Twitter. But yes, John got the wrong person.
Picture on Twitter, yeah.
No, I don't score, Sean. I don't give scores on this thing. I was just trying not to laugh.
You are just the reader of information. You're the assimilator of the promo.
I'm just the host of the show. That's all. I'm just telling you what people are saying. That's all. Nope. No scores from me. If you missed it, MLS did have a trade yesterday. Maxi Urruti joins his 500th MLS club, it feels like. He is going to Houston from Montreal, from CF Montreal, Club de Foot Montreal. They are getting Kiki Struna, who had been linked with a move to Europe. Looks like that's not happening now. So Struna to Montreal, they get their center back, and Houston gets a forward/winger in Maxi Urruti.
Colonel's in this morning. He says, it's not yet official, but it looks like Swansea will get attacking mid-Connor Hurricane from Aston Villa and Jordan Morris. Despite a couple of loan recalls, a good window for the Swans. Wondering about Morris's match fitness. Interested to see his minutes.
Yeah, I saw some people talking about, he could play this weekend. Man, that's fast. He hasn't been training. So I don't think it's that quick. I think he's going to need a little bit of time to get up to speed. I mean, he hasn't been training with Seattle since the final. And he's had some time off. I mean, it won't take him like a month to get up to speed, but I think it'll at least take him a few weeks.
Yeah, man, there was supposed to be a match today involving Swansea at Blackburn, but the game has been postponed at Ewood because of a waterlogged pitch. Maybe it was a Bull Durham moment by Blackburn. I don't know.
Maybe. You got to do what you got to do.
Midweek on a quick turn, you sit there, you have your Bull Durham moment with the sprinklers.
That's a heavy accusation, John.
Hey, you're 11th in the table, and you've lost 2 of your last 5.
That's not that bad.
You're going up against a team that's won 4 out of their last 5, unbeaten in their last 5.
So you got to resort to subterfuge?
I wouldn't call it subterfuge. It's just that why with a match coming, why with a match happening today, would you overwater? So the pitch was waterlogged. It's either drainage or it's sprinklers.
What's more likely?
What's more likely is drainage.
Then why are you accusing Blackwood or Blackburn of doing these things? Why are you doing this?
I'm thinking it through as I talk about it.
Okay.
Just thinking it through.
Interesting. All right.
Maybe they just don't want to face the Swans because the Swans are second in the table.
Oh, now you're proud of the Swans being second in the table. All I've heard from you all season is that you're waiting for the other shoe to drop.
I didn't say that I wasn't thinking that.
No, you just got all excited about it. You haven't been doing that all year.
I got excited about Jordan Morris, too.
so all over the place. There's no consistency. It's very frustrating.
And apparently, according to Wales Online, the if and when the Jordan Morris deal is officially official, they're not paying a loan fee, but they are going to be picking up most of his salary.
Okay. I'm a little surprised Seattle couldn't get a loan fee out of it, but okay. Silly season. Jordan Morris has been part of it, but it looks like that's getting done. Romelu Lukaku has now entered the silly season madness. And Katie Weaver, I'm not going Scott Parker Navy turtleneck. It's just like a long sleeve shirt. It's nothing that fancy, and I have a shirt underneath it because I wear a T-shirt underneath it, so it's not that fancy. I think it's just the way I was sitting. Lukaku. Fabio Santini from Italy, journalist, is reporting that Manchester City have presented an offer to enter equal to €80 million for Lukaku, and they have proposed €15 million per season to Lukaku, where he is currently earning €10 million per season at Inter. City is looking for somebody to replace Sergio Aguero because he's out of contract at the end of the season. Doesn't look like he's coming back. Yeah, Lukaku would be pretty sweet for Manchester City. Don't know if this is going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen right now. I think this is a summer move. But, yeah, this will get interesting. Dele Alli, it continues. It continues to spin around back and forth. PSG expects a decision this week. It doesn't look likely, according to Le Parisien in Paris. Tottenham wants more money out of this deal than PSG is willing to offer. Spurs want €50 million in some form, either as a transfer or through an obligation to buy. PSG can't afford it. They don't want to do that. Summer deal's not impossible. PSG says that Julian Draxler and Angel Di Maria, their current situation going forward with the club, are unclear. Maybe it comes back in the summer, but Le Parisien doesn't think it happens. The Mirror is reporting that PSG is expecting a decision. If Tottenham's wanting $50 million in some form or fashion, nah, ain't happening. David Alaba, according to Marca, has signed a deal with Real Madrid for the next season. He's out of contract in the summer. 4-year deal, salary close to €11 million per year. Now, according to Bild, and I think this might have been earlier, we'll see if there's an update. According to Bild in Germany, the father of David Alaba has denied reports of an agreement to go to Real Madrid. Everybody else is reporting it's done. So he is the guy's dad, though, so maybe he knows more. I don't know. We've thought it would be Real Madrid for 6 months now. I think it's still going to be Real Madrid in some form or fashion. Maybe they haven't signed a deal yet, but that's the only one that really makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, he'd been linked to Liverpool to help out at the back, and that went nowhere.
No,
and everything
it was never going to happen in January.
Yeah, so it's been leaning toward Real Madrid, and so maybe the dad does know more. It wouldn't be the first time that a dad has inside info about his kid and where his kid wants to go.
He's going to Real Madrid. Yeah. I think the dad maybe is saying that there's not an agreement yet, but he's going to Real Madrid. Yeah. Another one that's coming up a lot in England right now, Sky Sports had an update on Emiliano Buendia at Norwich. Arsenal's going to need to offer up £50 million to tempt Norwich into selling him now. That feels like a go-away number. Yeah. I don't think it's done. Austrian newspapers are also reporting that it's not a done deal with Real Madrid yet. The Spanish papers are reporting it's done. The Austrian and German papers are saying it's not done. I think it gets done on Alaba. I don't think it gets done on Buendia. I don't see that now. Maybe in the summer. We'll see. I don't see it now. Differing reports on Rodrigo de Paul, Argentine midfielder at Udinese, 26 years old. He was linked with a move to Leeds before the season. Didn't get done. Inter, according to Tuttosport, has agreed to sign him. He's also been linked to Liverpool, according to Tuttosport, and Leeds. Fabrizio Romano came in and said he's been linked to Liverpool as a possible purchase between January and next summer. Udinese has not gotten an offer or a call from Liverpool yet. The only club who's made active contact is Leeds, according to Romano, who wanted him last summer. Price is around €35 million. So far, Liverpool hasn't made that offer yet. Tuttosport saying it'll be Inter. Romano saying it could be Liverpool. I wonder if Leeds tries to come back in and get it done. We'll see. Two of the kind of funnier ones, well, three of the funnier ones. Radamel Falcao. We heard about the Portland thing that made no sense, and Portland's owner said, nah, it ain't us. In Colombia, Gustavo Serpa, who is the largest shareholder of Millonarios, one of the biggest clubs in Colombia, he was on Radio Caracol and said, I dream of bringing Radamel Falcao to Millonarios. That's more likely than Portland. It sounds like he's on his way out. In Turkey, does he end up in Colombia? Interesting. Christian Eriksen. Sad Christian Eriksen. Still sad. Still being talked about. Inter have told Tottenham they've been clear. If they want him back, they have to pay for the loan until the end of the season and pay for his salary. I don't know if Tottenham's going to do that. Tottenham is really being weird with their situations right now. This is not new for Tottenham. They're being a little strange. The funniest situation is Diego Costa, who we haven't really heard much about. Andre Villas-Boas, the manager at Marseille, and this is a quote from the Daily Mail. I received a message from an unknown number telling me that Diego Costa wanted to come to Marseille. I thought it was a joke. He's one of the best strikers in the world, but we cannot pay his salary. Has Diego Costa resorted to the spam messaging of managers around the world, like we saw during this last election cycle here in Georgia? Is it just random messages coming into managers? Diego Costa wants to come to your club. Diego Costa is available. Diego Costa really wants to play for your club. Diego Costa loves your club's history. Diego Costa would model your club's jersey on Instagram right now. I mean, what is it? Like, this is craziness.
Diego Costa is a footballer in Europe. If this is, in fact, the phone for Andre Villas-Boas, this is a message from Diego Costa to Andre Villas-Boas. Beep. So we're to the point now where players or their representatives are just randomly dialing up managers. It's like, yo, dog. It's like, yeah, I think that
it was a text.
Diego Costa would be really great for you. Click.
It was a text.
So, hey, you show a text. It's like, Diego Costa would really like to come play for you. I think that's interesting PR to try to get a gig. Is that where we are now?
We haven't heard his name mentioned since he left Atleti, so yeah, it might be where he is. The other thing from Bernd, our German and Austrian correspondent, Alaba's dad said in Austrian papers they're negotiating with Liverpool and City, but they have rejected an offer from Chelsea. Sorry, Domer. Sorry, Chelsea fans. Let's get into Chelsea because they have the big match of the day. They go to Leicester. Leicester can jump into first place with a win for the day. They would jump ahead of Manchester City and Manchester United, at least until those teams play tomorrow. Leicester has only lost one of their last 10 in all competitions. Chelsea have only picked up 4 points from a possible 18 in their last 6. They did beat Fulham. It wasn't convincing. And this is where things get interesting for Chelsea. We talked about Frank Lampard a lot. We've talked about Frank Lampard a lot on the show. It's a big topic. He's at a big club, and there's a lot of expectation. However, the win against Fulham brought his number of points per game in his time at Chelsea to 1.7. That is tied with Andre Villas-Boas for being the worst in Roman Abramovich's 17-and-a-half-year era at the club. Villas-Boas was sacked in 27 matches. Who do you think has the best points per game of anybody at Chelsea during Abramovich's time? Did you read the notes, John, or are you trying to play like you don't know?
I'm playing like I don't know.
Okay, so you know. Because you were going to come in with the answer, and I would have had to smack you down because you would have known.
No.
Do you actually don't know?
Because what I wanted to do was look at the list. I wanted to look at the list of all the Abramovich owners.
So I'm asking the people out there who are not playing radio. You can go through the list in a second.
Okay.
Who is the manager who has the best points per game during Abramovich's time at Chelsea?
Hang on. So now I've got to dial
I mean,
my
you've
way
got
back
Jose,
over.
you've got Carlo Ancelotti, you've got
Yeah.
Maurizio Sarri, you've got Antonio Conte. You got a whole bunch of managers who have been there. Goose Hiddink, Di Matteo. Who am I forgetting?
Avram.
Avram Grant, yes.
Let's see. Oh, Ranieri started it.
Rafa. Ranieri was there at the beginning, and then Jose got in, pushed him out.
Mm-hmm. I mean, did we say Goose Hiddink?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let's see. So Di Matteo we mentioned, Hiddink we mentioned, Villas-Boas. So
Abramovich bought Chelsea in 2003, 4?
Was 3 because summer of 2003 because Ranieri lasted another year after in the Abramovich ownership.
So nobody guessed it in the Twitch pitch. It's not Jose Mourinho. It's not Carlo Ancelotti. It is Avram Grant. 2.31 points per game.
Yeah,
his win
ratio was 2 out of every 3.
2.31 points per game. Avram Grant has the best number. Frank Lampard is tied for the worst right now. 56 Premier League matches. He's won 28, drawn 11, lost 17. Now, this is where it gets, okay, those numbers, that's not good. But let's get into some of the detail. Lampard's teams have conceded 1.44 goals per game. That's the worst of any of the managers during this time. Di Matteo's teams, 1.33, Hiddink, 1.26, Villas-Boas, 1.08. Goals conceded per game. Lampard's the worst by a fairly large amount. Now, there are a few things that he can hang his hat on. They are the team that has scored the second most goals in the final 15 minutes of matches. They're scoring late goals. They've scored 11 in those times. That's big. They have scored the most from dead ball situations in the Premier League, tied with Carlo Ancelotti's Everton. Both teams have scored 7 on dead ball situations. So they're scoring late. All right, spirit's good. They're scoring on dead balls. Okay, that's not. I mean, that's good. You're scoring, but from the run of play, that's not good. So 7 goals from dead ball situations. They have this season, when you look at the table, 33 goals. So you take those 7 away, you're 26 from the run of play in 18 games. It's not horrible, but when you're conceding as much as you are, that's a bit of a problem. It's not great. It's got to get better. I mean, these are the raw numbers. This is taking Frank Lampard's time as a player out. This is taking the club legend out. This is taking warm feeling or negative feelings out. These are the raw numbers. That's not good enough. That's not good enough for Chelsea. It's going to be tough. You know, this is a tough one. Facing Leicester today, at Leicester, Leicester can go top of the table with a win. What are the numbers on this one from a juice box perspective?
Leicester's at a plus 190 in the composite, courtesy of our friends at Odds Portal. Chelsea's a plus 152, and your draw is a plus 245.
Little surprised Chelsea's a favorite here.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would go that direction. That doesn't really make a lot of sense. But can they get it done against Leicester? Yeah, they have the talent. They absolutely can. They have not been good enough this season. That has to change. What do they have coming up after this? They've got FA Cup on the 24th. They host Luton Town. Okay. Then in the league, this is their next run leading up to Champions League. They host Wolves. Good potential for a win. They host Burnley. Good potential for a win. They go to Tottenham. Toss-up.
Mm-hmm.
They go to Sheffield United, good potential for a win. They host Newcastle, good potential for a win. They go to Southampton. They should win. That's throw today out. Run. Yeah, that's 6 games, 4 wins is what you should be looking for. Sure wins. Southampton, potentially. Tottenham, you get anything out of it? Okay. That could help him. Then you're Atleti, and Atleti's one of the best teams in Europe. I don't think Chelsea beats Atleti.
No.
And that's not catastrophic. I don't worry about that. They shouldn't beat Atleti. I think Atleti's a better team. After that, and this is where like the pressure and the twists and turns can get tricky for them. Then, after the Atleti game on February 23rd, they host Manchester United, they host Everton, they go to Leeds on March 13th, which, they're the favored team, but it won't be an easy game. That's the in-betweens with the Atleti series. Then it's at Liverpool, right after the second leg. That's tough.
And the Manchester United and the Liverpool games are on quick turns after Champions League.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to rack up the points in the 6 games after the FA Cup and before the first leg of the Atleti series. You need 5 wins. If you get 5 wins there, you're fine.
Mm-hmm.
Even with the wave that will come crashing in after, because people will overreact to Atleti beating Chelsea. Atleti should beat Chelsea. They will overreact because of the form previously to the quick turn to Manchester United, who's coming off a Europa League now. I believe, right? They'll be coming off of a Europa League game after that Atleti game that Chelsea has.
Checking the competition there.
Okay, check it. Because I think the Europa League will start back up that week too. Then, I mean, the Manchester United-Everton Leeds run, and then Liverpool after the second leg of Atleti. Chelsea's going to get beat up in those games a little bit. But they got to get 5 wins out of 6 after the FA Cup game.
Europa League starts back on the 18th, and they get 2 legs with Real Sociedad on the 18th and the 25th. So the second leg with Real Sociedad is a day and a half before the Chelsea match.
I think that Chelsea-Manchester United game will get moved. Is that a Saturday, February 27th?
Yes.
Yeah, it'll get moved to Sunday because of Manchester United being in Europa on the Thursday. So it's a shorter turn for Manchester United in that. Which maybe you take advantage of. I don't know. Maybe you can take advantage of that one. But 5 out of 6, the crucial run for Lampard, I think he needs 15 points out of those 6 games after the FA Cup. If he doesn't get the 15, he might be in trouble. If he gets the 15, he should be okay no matter what happens after that. That's where it comes down to for me. And they've got to look convincing too. I mean, there is a little bit of the eye test with it. They've got to score goals. They've got to stop conceding goals. If you're playing Wolves, Burnley, Sheffield United, Newcastle, Southampton, you've got to be able to win those games and win them with a little bit of style.
Yeah.
That's going to define Lampard's time at Chelsea.
Well, and you know that the Burnley match, Sean Dyche is going to want that to be very defensive, not a whole lot of opportunities. That's just his DNA. That's how they work. Newcastle,
but that's the thing. That's the point, John. That's what I'm saying. Sean Dyche should not be dictating that match. Chelsea should be dictating that match.
Mm-hmm.
Of course Burnley's going to want to defend. Of course Steve Bruce is going to want to defend. Yeah, that's what they do because they're lesser teams. That they should not be able to just sit back and defend because they're playing Chelsea. Chelsea should be coming in and dictating the terms of that match. And if they can't, then that's on Lampard.
Yep. That's exactly right. And they should beat Wolves. We've seen what Wolves is with players gone, players not healthy. Tottenham, but I mean, you should get out of there with 15 before you get into the match with Atleti on the 23rd.
Those extra games, Ragamuffin makes a good point. Those extra games for Manchester United will start to get interesting if they get past Real Sociedad.
Yeah.
That'll start to pile up for them, and it will affect their title run. Yeah, this is where it gets a little weird. Is you look at the table and how crowded it is in England right now. Manchester United is going to have to deal with Europa League. City, Liverpool, Chelsea have Champions League to deal with. Tottenham has Europa League to deal with. Leicester doesn't. Worked out pretty good for him last time.
Yeah. I mean, Leicester's got Europa.
They got Europa, sorry. Everton is the one who doesn't have anything, correct?
Right.
Everton doesn't. Leicester needs to get out of Europa League. If they want to make the run, they need to get back to where they were. Who do they play in Europa League?
Slavia Prague on the 18th and the 25th.
Yeah, can they throw those games? Can Brendan Rodgers accidentally send the U18s to those games?
Well, I mean, he's coming off of the match against Liverpool to go into leg one. Then he's got Aston Villa before he's got leg two. Then he's got Arsenal, and then he's got Brighton and Sheffield United in early March. So it's
yeah. Couple of things. The press conference at Racing regarding Lisandro Lopez is about to start. It's 12:30 local time in Buenos Aires, which is 10:30 our time. Which there is an empty chair in front of a microphone right now on TIC. If you're a Fanati subscriber, you can watch TIC there. They are in the midst of one of their Talking Heads shows. They've changed the stuff around for the summer because they're hanging out at a nice studio at the beach, which is pretty sweet. Wish I was doing that.
Nice.
TIC Sports Verano is very, very nice. But yes, he is about to speak to the media in Buenos Aires at Racing Club, saying his goodbyes. We'll keep you posted on everything that comes out of that. It wouldn't surprise me if they mention Atlanta United, if they talk about it. It also wouldn't necessarily surprise me if they don't, and they just focus on his time at Racing. So we'll keep you posted as that happens. He has not sat down in the chair just yet. There's also some other things going on at Argentinos Juniors with their new manager coming in. So it's a very busy day for Argentine football. Looks like we're getting some motion now, so we'll keep you posted with the comments. Couple other, completely different topic, real quick. Fortnite. Atlanta United will be involved in Fortnite, and John's very confused, as am I. I don't play Fortnite, so I can't help you with that. 23 clubs worldwide are participating in being able to choose 10 different variants of the new kickoff set skins to represent their favorite club in the game Fortnite. Atlanta United, Inter, Juventus, Manchester City, more from around the globe. Atlanta's one of 23 teams worldwide that are going to be part of this. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So if you're a Fortnite player, you can rep the 5 stripes in Fortnite.
I know it's a game. I kind of know what it's about, but no, I don't play it.
Okay. Mataflow is going to be on his best form of the general gist of what Lisandro Lopez is saying as he says his goodbyes to Racing. Look, it's emotional. I mean, I have it muted, so I can't give you what he's saying, and I'm not who you want translating it either. But you know, it's an emotional thing for him. He is a symbol of the team. He is the captain of the team. It was where he started. It's where he's had a lot of great success in the last 4 or 5 years, and he's leaving the club. And it's at a weird time for the club too. So I'm sure that will be a topic here as well. Atlanta, Seattle, and LAFC are the clubs that are in MLS in Fortnite. So 3 MLS clubs out of the 23. There is a full list at TheVerge.com of who is involved in it. We'll keep you posted on the quotes coming out of Buenos Aires during this press conference with Lopez, see if anything is said specifically about Atlanta United. That report came last night from Cesar Luis Merlo. Quite a few others had it right around the same time. You know, it's obviously happening to some degree. We the Atlanta side of it is not confirmed yet because he's not completed his press conference to leave Racing yet. So stay tuned on that aspect of it. But it was reported as a 1-year deal coming to Atlanta. And he is speaking to the assembled media at Racing right now. Any tweets we need to hit before we keep going?
Couple on Twitter real quick.
Okay.
Rich Ransom, and we mentioned this last night in Conca Cinco in soccer over there.
Mm-hmm.
Rich was reading the Athletic story on Jeff Lunau, the former Houston Astros GM, who is looking into buying a Liga MX team. And Rich linked to the section on MLS and Liga MX valuations. He says, this may give the anti-MLS crowd ammo, but did MLS overvalue its teams knowing the return is not high? And in the article, it was said, most MLS teams are now being valued at a minimum of $300 million. And this is from the article in The Athletic. Sources said that in some cases, those valuations are roughly 10 times the annual revenue of individual clubs. In contrast, sources said that it's typical for Liga MX teams to be valued at their annual revenue, which is usually in the neighborhood of $50 or $60 million.
They're valued at what they're selling for. Honestly, they've been valued at less than what they've been selling for. The most recent sales of MLS teams, those Forbes valuations, which are not the Zillow sale price, because they don't have that. They don't do that. It's somebody evaluating what they think the club would be worth, and we've seen the percentage that was bought of Orlando City, percentage that was bought of Cincinnati, I believe a percentage that was bought of LAFC. We've seen them value the team at more than that Forbes number. And that's what it's selling for. That's not what it's being numbered at. So, it's like that's not MLS doing anything wrong. I think at times maybe we blame everything on MLS because it's just the easy thing to do, but MLS isn't Forbes, and MLS isn't setting a number that is not being met generally. Like the clubs are selling for amounts that are more than those numbers. So no, I don't think MLS is doing anything wrong. The Mexican clubs have limited potential to grow, and I think the MLS clubs, investors are seeing it as they can grow. We can buy in now, and it will grow, and it'll be worth more later. So people are buying some of that potential, just like a young player sells for more than a established veteran in a lot of cases because of the potential. And I think the potential is a big thing for MLS clubs.
Well, and I think at the same time also with MLS clubs, you have MLS clubs who own their own stadiums. And it's not just the valuation of the club itself and the players that are there. It's all the resources that are attached to it, whether it's stadiums, practice facilities, what have you. There are a lot of other elements in play than just the resources that are there on the field.
The stadium is a big point of it, and that's why some are valued at more than some of the Mexican teams that might not own the stadium, or it might be an old stadium that needs refurbishment, whereas the MLS ones are generally newer. The practice facilities and all that are probably the same in both. The Soccer United marketing piece is another element too, where you're getting that share as well of the Soccer United marketing ownership, and that has proven to be fairly lucrative. So, yeah, none of it matters outside of what it's selling for, and MLS teams are selling for more than Mexican teams. Period.
And then the other one on Twitter to catch us up comes from Tafka. Tafka saw that Nick Tate, and I'm sorry if I butchered that pronunciation, he's without a club after spending a couple of seasons with Schalke's second team, and he's wondering if should MLS clubs give him a shot.
Did MLS clubs give Zion Jones a shot? Because that's the level we're talking about. Somebody who didn't make it through the young teams, reserve teams, youth teams at Schalke. Just because they were there doesn't mean they should get a shot. If the level's not there, the level's not there. He hasn't really proven anything that the level's there yet. I've seen him compared to a lot of different players, and he hasn't broken through yet. So that's just where it is. He needs to go somewhere and play. He needs to go to a club where he can play. And if that's second division Belgium, if that's, wherever he can find, if that's USL Championship, he needs to go play. But no, I don't think MLS teams should give him a shot because of being at Schalke's youth teams, because that's where Zion Jones was. And Zion Jones hasn't been able to break through. So it's just Schalke brought a lot of people over, and not all of them hit, which is typical. A lot of teams bring a lot of players through, and they don't all make it. just because you were at a big club at one point doesn't mean you're a great player and should walk into MLS. Will Vint is another prime example. Will Vint, Manchester United Academy. Ooh, he came to Atlanta. He was good. Will Riley was better. And Will Riley came through Atlanta United's academy. Will Riley was a year younger and better. So Vint went to Colorado, where there was more of an opening. He signed a homegrown deal. He hasn't played for the Rapids yet in MLS. That's just where it is. And that's okay. That's good for MLS. That's good that it's not you walk in with some youth experience at a big club in Europe and you walk into a starting lineup. It's good that the league has progressed past that. Modiflow with a little bit of translation, and this is the gist of what Lisandro Lopez is saying at this press conference. He said, "It's a mental thing. I can't say where I'm going next. There are conversations like were reported yesterday with clubs in the USA, like Atlanta, but I'm not going to sit here and say anything because it's a lack of respect for this institution," talking about Racing. And that makes sense. That's how it's supposed to be done. That's a pro right there for you, because that's how you handle these things when you are saying goodbye to a club that gave you your start and also gave you a great, not conclusion. Maybe he wanted to finish his career there, but it's not worked out that way. And this is a huge opportunity for him, for his life after football as well. And Racing's not in a good place at the moment. So, it wouldn't be good for him to stick around and suffer through that. A couple quotes. Radio La Red is covering this as well, and Lopez said, "I feel that it's time to go, that I cannot commit myself the way I always was, especially from the mental," and that's back to what Modiflow said. He mentioned something about being tired of the way things were going, and that all goes back with, things we've talked about with Diego Milito leaving the sporting director, Bekasese leaving with Milito, to the point that Milito was arguing with the club's board in front of the team in the second leg of the Libertadores series. That was where they were eliminated. There's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes at Racing. Lopez said, "I've decided to finish this stage at the club. 5 years where I really gave everything. I'm here to announce and thank the club for having me back and for giving me that opportunity." Let's see if there's any more from it. But he's not going to focus what he's saying on Atlanta and MLS in the next step, because he wants to respect the club that he has been at. He's not disputing what was reported by Merlo and others, but he is not going to sit there and make this about Atlanta and make this about his next step. He is there to thank Racing for his time at the club.
Yeah, and that's you don't want to muddy a press conference with anything like that. You want to focus on the here and now, focus on the time that you spent, discuss the club in and of itself. You don't want to look at anything else that's being reported. You're focusing on what's locked in right there in front of you and show the respect that the club has been there as a part of the fabric of your career. So straight up stuff.
Yeah, this is an incredibly respected player, not just at Racing, but in Argentina as a whole. So it's another reason why it's big to get a player with this kind of character into a young club like Atlanta, and somebody that would obviously have that respect for Gabriel Heinze and come in and put in the work for him, but also help get his ideas across. A couple other quotes that I'm seeing. He has especially mental fatigue about the way things are at Racing and his time at Racing. He wants a change of scenery, a change of air. I agree with Monteflo. The context is that he's tired of the politics at the club.
Yeah.
Gustavo chimes in and says that Lisandro is only doing the press conference because of the Merlo report. And there were others, too. There were a bunch that all hit right around the same time. I think Merlo might have been first. He said that means the information is accurate. He didn't mention Atlanta United, but he mentioned the rumor. I'm with Gustavo. I think that would mean that he is probably coming to Atlanta United. We'll see about the timeline and how everything goes. But this was his way to say goodbye, as much as anything, to the supporters of Racing, where he started and where he just spent the last 5 years and won trophies.
Yeah. And no, you want that kind of an opportunity. You want to be in that forum to talk to the fans and sit there and give them that goodbye as well in an official capacity instead of sitting there and not addressing it or addressing it not in a way that you're not comfortable with. So no, you have this opportunity as well, and I think that once again plays into the kind of individual that Lopez is.
He said that Diego Milito's departure had nothing to do with this. He had been talking to him. He'd been talking to Victor, who I believe is the president of the club, and some of their colleagues for a long time. He wanted to say thank you to the fans for their support. I think that is all from it. I don't know if he's still taking questions or not. We'll keep you posted if anything else comes up there and anything else coming through that. Okay. Tafka is now still campaigning. I'll get the black helicopter theory out for you, Tafka. He got a first-team signing with Schalke in July, but, okay, he's not playing. He didn't play. Not claiming he's a transcendent talent for MLS, but depth, prospect, take a flyer on him. Sure, you could, but just because he's got Schalke on a CV doesn't mean that he should walk into MLS. I'm sorry, I just don't see it. He's got to prove it as a player first, and he hasn't proven it at a first-team level. So, no, I wouldn't. Unless I've got some different information and know more, just off what we know, I would not bring him in as a flyer. I would want to see him play somewhere first. He needs to go somewhere where he's going to play. That's the key.
Yeah, and from everything that I read this morning, there were a lot of injuries that were involved, and so he wasn't really getting a whole lot of action because of the injuries. Never made an appearance for the first team either, and so you can kind of understand where Schalke was coming at here. It's like I think it was maybe a dozen appearances over a handful of seasons with the second team, and injuries played a part. And so Schalke was like, okay, we wish him well in his future, but yeah, they just they decided to cut their losses.
Yeah, and that's where they are. And if he wasn't getting opportunities there, if he signed the first team deal and they're not doing well, and he's still not getting opportunities, it just doesn't bode that well for him to be able to walk into an MLS team. You guys tell me what you think. I mean, would your top MLS teams, would your top half MLS teams be able to play with Schalke on a regular basis? I kind of think they would.
Yeah.
I absolutely think that they would. So I think maybe it's just the idea that he's at Schalke, he's in the Bundesliga. He's not everywhere in the Bundesliga. He's had a very bad team in the Bundesliga. I don't think they would come in and just dominate in MLS.
Mm-mm.
I don't.
No. I don't either. A lot of action going on today. You'd mentioned Leicester and Chelsea. Quickly, the juice boxes for the other game, the 1 o'clocker. Mm-hmm. West Ham is a minus 172 hosting West Brom. Big Sam is north of plus 500, basically a plus 520. Your draw is a plus 315.
I'm not getting anywhere near that thing. West Ham should win.
Yeah, they should. I just, actually, I'm going to check something real quick when it comes to the props that are associated with it. Over under West Ham. I had to check the over under here. Okay. They've got the over at minus 118, and that's where it changes. 3 is a plus 147. So they actually think that the West Brom that showed up last time and scored goals is going to show up this time against West Ham.
Yeah, I'm not buying it. Byrne talking about Schalke and bringing in especially young American players like they were very prone to do for a while. Signed a lot of young American talent because they were getting them for free, like Zion Jones, like Tatig. These guys you're bringing in who had not signed pro deals in the U.S. yet. They were getting them for free. They were getting an opportunity. Some made it, some didn't. That's what they were doing, which makes sense for where Schalke is, especially now. They don't have a lot of money.
No.
Period. So that's what they're having to look at. Other games around Europe today. Leverkusen is hosting Borussia Dortmund. Leverkusen's coming off the 1-0 loss to Union Berlin. They've lost 3 of their last 4. Dortmund was held 1-1 at home by Mainz on Saturday. 7 points out of first, away from Bayern Munich. Both teams are a little disappointing coming into this. Let's look at the table for the big picture. Leverkusen is in third, 7 points back. Dortmund is level with them on points, behind them on goal differential in fourth. What are the numbers on that one, John?
Borussia Mönchengladbach.
What? What?
Well,
I said, what are the numbers on Leverkusen and Dortmund?
Okay, well, they were the second one. I was going through. They have 4 matches today. I was going down in order of time.
I asked you a question, and you give me Mönchengladbach.
Leverkusen's a plus 223 in the composite. Your draw's a plus 280, and Dortmund's a plus 116. Nah.
You're a chicken. I'm going with the home team, who is a bigger underdog. I'm going with Leverkusen.
Leverkusen just changed in front of our very eyes. It's still leaning a little closer to plus 220, but it is drawing closer.
I get plus 220 on the team at home that's in third place?
Yeah.
I'm taking Leverkusen.
All right.
Now the rest of the Bundesliga slate, John.
Borussia Mönchengladbach at 12:30 is a minus 169. Werder Bremen a plus 475. Your draw is a plus 323. The other matches at 2:30, 2 of them, Hertha Berlin and Hoffenheim. Hertha is a plus 131. Hoffenheim's a plus 215. Your draw is a plus 250. Mainz at home against Wolfsburg. Mainz is a plus 325. Wolfsburg is a favorite at minus 120, and your draw is a plus 290.
FIFA Club World Cup, the draw is complete. It starts on February 4th, and Tigres will be playing Ulsan Hyundai in match number 2. There's not a match number 1 because who was it out of New Zealand? Auckland. They had to pull out because of the protocol situations in, I think, their country. So they were not going to be able to participate. So match 2, it's Tigres and Ulsan Hyundai. Match 3, it is Al Duhail and Al Ahly. Semifinal number 1 on February 7th will be the Copa Libertadores winner, which will be decided not this weekend, but next weekend. That team will go straight to the Club World Cup. They will play the winner of Tigres and Ulsan Hyundai. The other second-round match will play Bayern Munich on February 8th. The final is on February 11th.
Interesting. I'm looking forward to it. I want to see how Tigres goes up against Ulsan Hyundai. I want to see
Tigres needs to win that. That's been an issue for the CONCACAF teams, is getting past this game. They should be getting past these games and then competing with whether it's the European or the Libertadores winner. They need to get past it comfortably and then get into that competition. Monterrey, look, they gave Liverpool a good game. They gave Liverpool a really good match. You need to keep doing that. This should be a win for Tigres, and it should be comfortable.
Well, and it goes back to the question that you were posed in the AMA yesterday on 92.9 The Game about having Atlanta United winning a Club World Cup or the Falcons. Was it the Falcons winning the Super Bowl? Was that the second half of it?
Yeah, but both of them were at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. And what I said on the AMA was, if Atlanta United was to win a Club World Cup at home, they would have had to have won a semifinal against probably one of the best teams in the world, either the Champions League winner or the Libertadores winner, and then beat the other one in the final. So if you're doing both of that in a week, yeah, I'm on board with that.
Yeah, I admit I'm partial. I want to see Atlanta United win a Club World Cup. I think that would be, in the moments. I'm not a Falcons fan. I'm sorry.
That
I've just
was
never
the
been
part
a Falcons
that you probably
fan.
needed to include, because I don't think everybody knew that.
Yeah, I'm just not a Falcons fan. In growing up in Southern California, I was a Chargers fan. I still am, and we're awful. So I've covered the Falcons and was at the Roman numeral Classic in Miami when we got off the air, and all of a sudden we're hearing one of the Denver TV station up on their cherry picker discussing what happened with Eugene Robinson. So I've covered 3 Roman numeral Classics, and it's like, good for Atlanta Falcons fans to get to that point, but I'm partial. I want to see Atlanta United win first.
John, It is the
What?
Super Bowl. You're downplaying it a bit. I'm good for Atlanta Falcons fans if the Super Bowl's in Atlanta and they get to host it and they get to play in it and win it. Good for them. That'd be a huge deal. I don't even act like it wouldn't be. In this city, it'd be insane.
Absolutely, it would.
I would, because the question was what I would like more.
Yeah.
I would love to see the Club World Cup in Atlanta and see Atlanta United win this. Okay, good, yay. The question yesterday that you referenced was to me, not which one would be bigger, because I think ultimately both would be big, but the Super Bowl would be bigger for most people. It just would. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Thomas Jewin points out the Super Bowl's never had the host team playing in the game, although Tampa Bay might be able to pull that off. I was going to ask you, John. I seem to remember on the show when the Tom Brady stuff came up, you were
I said
trash. 880.
880. Yep.
880. He's going to get sacked 30 times, and he's going to be terrible, and blah, blah, blah. Where are they again?
They're playing in Green Bay.
How are you going to talk your way out of this one?
I'm not.
Okay, good. You're going to admit you're wrong?
Is it wrong to root against something?
That had nothing to do with it.
In my assessment of Tampa Bay, I was incorrect.
Yes, you were very wrong. You thought that wouldn't work out.
Color me surprised that I'm wrong with a prediction.
I'm just saying. Usually you try to talk yourself out of it. You didn't try this time.
It's the NFL. I'm not going to talk myself out of it.
Yeah, Alex, I did for some reason go Nick and Beckham in that whole back and forth. I have no idea why. I think it's my throat's all screwed up. I think that's why I did it. I don't know why that happened. It was weird. It even had a little bit of the accent. It was very strange. Couple questions about the Club World Cup that I wanted to touch on as we finish up. When will it come to the United States? 4Card asks. It should be as soon as they could possibly get it, because it's a big deal. The follow-up, Sam Williamson said, why is it not considered the biggest competition in the world of soccer? The World Cup will be that probably for our lifetimes and beyond. Because of the history of it, because of, kind of playing off of the Olympics and bringing a country together and all those kinds of different things. I think the World Cup will always be that. The Club World Cup should be bigger. The reason it's not is it's not a big competition in terms of size. That's a week right now. It's not a big competition in terms of who could win it. The European team is always going to be favored right now, and it's by a ridiculously large amount. It will become a bigger, more important competition when you have more competition within it, when you have more teams, but also more upsets. Upsets will drive these things. I mean, the NCAA basketball tournament became a bigger deal when you started to see teams get upset because people were thriving on the upsets. Now, they had the best of both worlds, because you'd have those upsets in the first round, but it'd be like the 4 seed getting knocked off. It'd be a 3 seed, occasionally somebody bigger. But then who would be in the Final Four? The teams you would expect to be in the Final Four for the most part. So you got both. With such a small tournament, you're not getting both right now. The favorites are winning it. They're not really being pushed on a regular basis. And you're not getting these upsets because there's only a handful of teams in it. But I don't know how much more FIFA can do with it, because Europe wants to expand the Champions League, and it's the biggest competition at the club level in the world. CONMEBOL wants to make more out of the Libertadores, and they want to keep pushing that, and I think they will by adding the Mexican teams back in. I think they'll push it by adding MLS teams into it. Those competitions will be bigger than the Club World Cup until FIFA makes a bigger Club World Cup on a regular basis every year, not one every 4 years where it's bigger. Like every year it is bigger and there's more competition in it. I don't know if there will be more competition in it because the European teams have all the money. I think it's just that simple.
Yeah, Nathan's asking if the U.S. hosts the Club World Cup, would the MLS champion get an automatic spot? The host country gets one
Yes,
now.
They would. Well, that would be the question, since MLS has 2 countries. I would assume that the answer would be that even if Toronto or Montreal or Vancouver won it, they would get in because of that.
We were talking about Fortnite earlier, and the custom skin that Atlanta United can give their players. Chris Kilroy says it's a great partnership. It suggests to Chris that the leaked primary kit, black with the 5 narrow red stripes, is not actually going to be our primary kit for 2021.
Yeah, and it wasn't a leak. I think that needs to be understood. It was a mock-up of what Footy Headlines was hearing. It was not an actual leak. That should be understood. Now, Johannes, you haven't missed anything. We've just been chatting about different things. That's all. Well, lots of stuff.
Sup, Joe Cool.
Just stuff. Maybe people got a little overblown about the leak / mock-up / whatever. Wait and see. Let's see what happens. I don't know. I have no idea what's going to happen. I haven't seen anything.
Neither have I.
No, you have not either.
And I probably couldn't describe it properly anyway if I did see something.
You are not a fashionista.
No.
Just saying.
Like I said, I'm the guy that will go out and buy the Al Nasser golf shirt. That's the kind of fashionista I am.
That is something.
Yeah. Give me your tired, your obscure, your dead. I'll wear it.
That is something.
Uh-huh.
Let me see here. I was looking to see if anything else had come up on Lisandro Lopez. A lot of talk from Racing fans about his work ethic, how much he provides to the club in the locker room, on the training pitch. All of those elements that are going to be really, really big if this is the move. And look, it's by all accounts looking like that's going to happen. So I think he is still. I'm not sure if they're showing highlights from it or not. I don't know if he is still speaking to the media in Buenos Aires at Racing, but he has said his goodbyes to the club, thanked the fans, and talked a little bit about why he wanted to leave. Stressful with the way everything's been going at the club in the last few months. There's definitely a change of an era right now with the sporting director leaving. He said that wasn't why he's leaving. He had planned on it before. He'd been talking about it before. It is a change of scenery and a change of air is the way it translates for a lot of people. He needed that. He talked about the mental strain at Racing here lately. Let's see where it goes. Jason Nix with a question on the Twitch pitch as we're into the final question. So final call for questions, etc. So where do you see Lopez fitting into the team? Starter or backup to Joseph? I think if you play 45 games this year in all competitions, if he starts 20, would be about where I would see it. Maybe playing in 30. So mostly off the bench, but starting some to spell folks. You are looking at a calendar this year that will have Copa America, Gold Cup, European Championship. Maybe MLS is able to take a couple weeks off, maybe not, depending on when they start the season. You will have World Cup qualifiers as well, and Joseph, if he is healthy, will be considered by Venezuela. You should have those games off. I think that's the plan. But again, if the schedule gets compressed, maybe you don't. You'll also have the travel after games and before games, and you're going to be careful with Joseph's knee. And if you have a capable veteran who can come in and play in those moments, that's not a bad place to be. And I would assume, because of the way this is going, that Gabriel Heinze might have requested Lisandro Lopez's presence in Atlanta. Players from around the same era. Lopez was a little bit younger than Heinze, but they have played together. They've been around each other quite a bit. And if Lopez, as he said today at Racing, if he was kind of wanting that change of scenery, wanting a new challenge, it all fits together. It all fits together. One of the reports that we talked about last night on Soccer Over There, that he'd be coming with his wife and new daughter, bringing the family to Atlanta. That's a little different. Not everybody's done that. That's that shows you, I think, that he's looking for something new, and not just for the year of the contract, but a bit of a new life as well. I'm really curious to see if he goes into coaching.
Yeah.
That's the element that I'm really curious to see, is if he goes into coaching afterwards. Seems like he's a lifer in the game, so it wouldn't surprise me if he did. We will see. If you're showing up late, he didn't say anything specifically like, I am going to Atlanta United. He did reference the rumors that were out there. He didn't say where he was going. He did mention a club in the U.S. He said a deal's not been closed. By all accounts, that's what's going to happen here. So we shall see. We're not doing a 3-hour show, folks. Don't even give me ideas.
Breaking news sounder, please.
Okay.
You remember last week we caught up with Kurt Johnson, the president and GM of North Carolina FC. Dave Sarachan announced last week that he was stepping away from the head coach gig at North Carolina FC. John Bradford has been named head coach of North Carolina FC. As the team, and this is the headline of the release, the team shifts focus to enhancement of the youth to professional development pathway. Bradford was an assistant under Dave Sarachan during the 19 and 20 championship season, serves as academy director for NCFC Youth, as well as the technical director of the U23s. Mike McGinty has been named to the team's as the team's assistant coach. Nick Platter continues in his role as assistant general manager.
There you go. Makes sense with the progression that North Carolina is going through now, with dropping down a level on paper and also focusing on that pathway from the kids in their affiliated youth clubs to the professional team. It all fits together.
Let's see. Bradford is in his 15th season with NCFC Youth, and according to the club, they say he provides valuable insight into the club's top youth players, whom he will continue to develop as the head coach on the pro side. And so the release is out by North Carolina FC. John Bradford is the new head coach next season.
There you go. Okay, final questions. Tweet them at us at Soccer Down Here. Throw them into the Twitch pitch. No, Atlanta did not leak the new kits with the Fortnite announcement 4 card. Modiflow, I am skipping one of your questions because you are being silly and trying to draw me into conversations that are going to last for over an hour, and we're not doing that. Modiflow says, any idea what kind of signing Gam Tam Sham Lopez would be? I don't even know if he'd get to needing allocation money. I don't think it's. I don't know. I don't know how much he's making at Rossing, but would he be making more than $600,000 to need allocation money here? I don't know if he would be. I don't think he would be. So I think it's just a normal signing. He would take up an international slot. That is accurate. He'd go on the senior roster, et cetera, et cetera. But I don't think it'd be a TAM move. No, Modiflow. No. No. That's what I'm going to say. No. No. That's how I feel. Anything else on the Twitters?
Nope, we are caught up on the Twitters.
Okay. One other bit from Argentina, and I don't know when this game kicks off, and I don't know if you can actually watch it in the States. The first fully professional women's final in Argentina is today. And it's not just your average final, it's Boca and River. They are the ones in the first fully professional final in Argentina. I know these games have been available at times and not through nefarious means. I don't know what the broadcast situation is in Argentina for it. It could be available on YouTube. Perfect Tommy says 5 o'clock Eastern time and thinks that YouTube will stream it. So we'll post that up when we find confirmation on the stream and where that looks, where that's going to be. We'll share it. I'll be looking for that, Tommy. Thank you. Look, I've seen the highlights. There's a great NWSL Analytica Twitter follow that you definitely need to follow. A lot of great content on NWSL, but also women's soccer worldwide. It's there's talent in this league. It's a very different kind of I think competition than NWSL because it's not I think NWSL and American women's soccer focuses a lot on power and strength and speed as opposed to the technical side, which these players are far more technical on average, I think, but nowhere near as athletic. And the game's a little bit slower paced, but there's some real talent. It's a big deal with the development of the game in Argentina and just the investment in it. I mean, now the league's fully professional. That started last fall. You know, they were in the last World Cup. Things are progressing on the women's side in Argentina. Burned, you are really evil. You know that, my friend? Burned asks, so when will the next tournament in Argentina start? How is it structured?
See, that flow chart is amazing.
It's not that bad, the first division one. They're doing 2 competitions. It's 2 zones of 13 in the first one. It's another Copa Diego Maradona. They'll have a round of Clásicos in that, so you're playing 13 games. Then you have a playoff. Then you go into a normal season of a 26-team table where you play 25 games. You're playing everybody once. The biggest thing that I learned today, Burned, to add to this, now I'm already done with it, Jason Nix. The biggest thing to add to it is they will have VAR in these competitions, and it will start on February 14th. VAR in Argentina could be amazing. VAR in Argentina could have people dragging the video assistant referee out of the VAR booth.
Set the booth on fire with him in it.
He might shoot a flamethrower out of the booth at people. There's no telling. It's going to be wild. I don't know the system, Nix. I don't know if it's going to be centralized VAR or not, but they will have VAR for the first time domestically. It could be incredible. Gustavo, River Boca today is at 21:10 Atlanta hour on TNT Sports Argentina. We don't have TNT Sports Argentina here, but I do think they stream a lot of their stuff on YouTube that is not sold elsewhere. So be on the lookout for that. 21:10. That's like 9:10? I thought it was earlier than that, Gustavo. I thought it was
9:10 local?
No, he's saying Atlanta time. I think it's earlier than that. We will see. You guys are trying to bait me into talking longer.
Yeah.
And I'm done. Felipe was watching the press conference as well, and he said it's been a moving press conference. Lisandro Lopez is a Racing Club legend. He's almost broken down in tears on several occasions. The presser ended with a round of applause from the reporters in attendance. That's the respect for this guy who could be coming to Atlanta. That's where we're going to end it. Nice try, y'all. Nice try, Ragamuffin. Good times. But that's going to end it because I'd like to keep my voice for the rest of the time.
Yes.
So tomorrow we'll be back in the morning. We will keep you posted on a stream and timing for that Boca River women's final in Argentina. And anything else that happens the rest of the day. If you're a subscriber, you don't have the Discord link, please let us know so we can get that to you, and you can join in on the fun. 5:10. Thank you, Gustavo. It's 5:10 U.S. time. Check TNT Sports Argentina on YouTube. I know they put a lot of stuff there. I would assume this game would be there, but we'll try to confirm as well. So Discord, if you're a subscriber, please join into the fun. We'll be back tomorrow. Thanks to everybody who subscribes in whatever way you do, whether it's Patreon, whether it's Twitch, whether you subscribe to the podcast feed, spread the word about what we're doing, all those different things. Thanks to all the new fans, the old fans. Thanks to all of you for spending some time with us. We'll be back tomorrow. Mucho platiel.
Mucho platiel.